that Solomon, son of David, king of Israel, built. You need no longer carry it on your shoulders. Now serve the Lord your God and his people Israel.
Make preparation by your ancestral balance, by your division, following the written direction of King David of Israel and the written direction of his son Solomon.
Good. Take position in the holy place according to the grouping of the ancestral house of your kindred, the people, and let there be Levites for each division of an ancestral house. 6.
Slaughter the Passover lamb, sanctify yourself, and on behalf of your kindred make preparation, acting according to the word of the Lord by Moses.
16 through to 19. 16. So all the service of the Lord was prepared that day to keep the Passover and to offer burnt offerings on the altar of the Lord, according to the command of King Josiah. 17.
The people of Israel who were present kept the Passover at that time and the festival of unleavened bread 7 days.
18. No Passover like it had been kept in Israel since the days of the prophet Samuel. None of the kings of Israel had kept such a Passover as was kept by Josiah, by the priests and the Levites, and by all Judah and Israel who were present, and by the inhabitants of Jerusalem. 19.
In the 18th year of the reign of Josiah, this Passover was kept.
Amen. The summary of the Decalogue. And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, who brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt abhor the gods before me. Lord, have mercy upon us, and incline our hearts to keep this law. The summary of the Decalogue. Hear what Christ our Savior said. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first great commandment, and the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments and all the law and the prophets. Glory to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Ghost, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. Amen. Okay, y'all, lesson today continued in the talking of worship in the covenant community. And all of these lessons have been about worship. We talked about the altar, about worshiping on the altar and those type of things that you do. We talked about Solomon dedicating the temple and what its use was and all of these things. So we talked about use it in the covenant community. This is the way they worship. And you know, we have ways of worshiping too. And they were following the covenant commandments of the covenant. Today we talk about Josiah. And this is a very good lesson today also, continuing in what he did and how they worship and the things that were laid about in the book of the law and told them what to do. Now they had straight away what he's going to do to get them back to worshiping the way things should be done. We think about those things as we go along in our worship service. Some of the things that we do and how we should be doing things. A long time ago, you know, several did things a certain way, they'll change some of it. But we're talking about the things that God, the book of law, our book of law that we're following, what we're doing now in the Bible, you know. Our Bible tells us many things that we should be doing and how to do it. Jesus gave us a commandment when he left. We go out and preach the gospel and do those things. We have things that we should be doing and loving our neighbor. Just talk about love our neighbor. That's all these things that we should be doing, how we do. So this is a very good lesson. And we'll have a lot of discussion about that. Teachers may now take charge. I don't think Sister Curtis won't be she's out of town.
Yes, she is.
Her kid,
Yeah,
maybe, I thought my little grandkid would be here today. Decided to stay here. Yesterday, he was supposed to come Friday, Saturday. He somewhere, they wanted to stay there, so they stay there.
He's growing up.
I was mad. I was mad.
Yeah, I heard
I
that.
had some things I needed to man, so we get done. You get ready. Whoa. And then they still my shoe.
Yeah, well, you know, never say, well, you know, never,
Feels, yeah.
never say never. Like I said, great lesson. First time the girls got yeah, but we'll get to that. They're kind of raining hard, BJ.
Blow up. Well, it doesn't blow up.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, I think it's good. Josiah celebrates Passover. Second Kings, 22nd to 32nd, Chronicles 34, 1 to 35, 19. Key verse: Josiah kept the Passover to the Lord in Jerusalem. They slaughtered the Passover lamb on the 14th day of the first month, the second Chronicles 35. I guess, you know, to put mile and stuff, you know. Somebody tell me why we celebrate the Passover. Or why the Jews celebrate the Passover. We see it, a lot of those same things that the Jews did for us, you know, Holy Communion. You know?
Passover was they left ancient Egypt. Refused to let them go, and then when God put all these plagues on them. The last one, he told them to put the blood over the lintel of the door. And all the ones that had blood on over the lintel of the door, arguing would pass over. But the ones that didn't, the firstborn would pass. So they left Egypt, you know, they still celebrate that. What God did for them. It was a joyous occasion for them, and it was a sad occasion because, you know, all the things they had been through. But what the Lord did for them, they were celebrating that. And that is the Passover. The death angel passed over there, though, killed their firstborn.
Very explicit, very to the point, brother. The Jews just giving reverence to God, basically thanking Him. You know, all He had done to stop it. More so than anything else about use of storytelling, you know, all the ducks were required, you know, tell the children about what happened, you know, how, you know, that the children of Israel made a hasty retreat out of Egypt, you know, from Pharaoh. You know, and also got it to the point about, and I think sometimes people are not kind of enjoying the part too, when the author was writing this lesson, he told about how so close that the Passover and the eating of unleavened bread was right there, you know, like they just about like they celebrate them together because they're so close to how they do it, you know. And the thing about eating the unleavened bread, you know, because they was in a hurry trying to get out of Egypt. They didn't have time to let what they would normally do with the bread, you know. make the bread up, let it set out, overnight, so the yeast can do what it's supposed to do. So by the time they stuck it in the oven, well, the unleavened bread was bread made without the yeast in it. So when they, like I said, they didn't have time to do what they would normally have done with the bread and stuff, to get it right. So they basically ate it like it was, without the yeast and stuff, because they ate things and it was gone,
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we look at the way people celebrate and stuff, certain passages of what we do and stuff, for us recognizing, we taking the bread and the wine on Communion Sunday, as a reverence for us to give, credence to God about, the stuff that Jesus did for us, how he died, became a sacrificial lamb for us and stuff, how when we, eat the bread and drink the wine, how we ceremonially, giving God, Son,
Mm-hmm.
the respect for what he did, for us and stuff, And basically, because this was of such significance and stuff that the Jews, and the thing about it is, you ever notice how it's a good thing that everybody pick up on it? A lot of cultures and a lot of people have picked up on what it was that the Jews was practicing and how they was practicing it by paying homage, doing service and stuff. And of course, I have to say the Jews seem to have mastered the art of passing significant of Passover from one generation to the next. And that used to be a thing that was very prevalent, in the black race as well. We used to pass on a lot of stuff, A lot of stuff was significant. But somewhere along the line, in generation 4 and 5 and going forward, they don't see the significance and personally, they don't want to be part of it. I can remember growing up as a kid and stuff, I started asking my mama, being from Alabama, I asked her why y'all didn't tell us about slavery, And she said, we heard so much about it growing up ourselves, we thought, I said, no, mama, y'all did us an injustice because we needed to know. See, because everybody had the question, how and why? What put us in this situation? And if you don't tell somebody why it was this situation occurred and stuff, then it's like you got a big gap. That's what knowledge is concerned about. Say what? She said, oh, well, we didn't know it, so I tell you what, it's time to stop that, stop that drain because, all the kids need to know and stuff, because it's still not right for somebody, even though they try to placate and make all kinds of excuses, ain't no excuse you can come up with for slavery. That, you work somebody, to death and kill them and did all manner of things to them, evil to them and stuff, just perpetuate your system, And there ain't nothing great in that. So sometimes it's good to know. And if you read the lesson and stuff, there's one part in here and stuff going forward with the Passover, they say, this participation around the Seder tradition of the Passover meal ensured the events and the significance of Passover celebration are forever fresh in the minds of Jews. They ate some matzah, bread, some bitter herbs, and had a mixture of apples, nuts, and fruit. That what constituted, the Passover meal and stuff, And sometimes you look at it and stuff, somebody, like a long time ago, we had a discussion, somebody said, why the bitter herbs? Why you think they the bitter herbs, lady?
Something to do with the captivity, the way they were.
To let them know.
Captivity.
Let them know about the taste, you never lose sight of what it felt like, when somebody been in captivity and people beating on you, killing you, So, that the bitter herbs was to let them know that, hey, you don't never want to go back to this,
That's I don't understand with our people. We as black men, know what it feels like to be picked out, to be picked on. We know what it feels like to have police, judges, or people judges by the color of our skin. So why do we do it to our own people? You know, we know what it feels like to struggle. We all of us in here probably not what we want to be, but we've made it through some stuff. We're as close as we want to be financially and some places, but we got it through. So when we see other people struggle, we try to help. But there are some people that's more well off than we are, and won't look the finger to help somebody else out. And they do, you know, some of the same things. So I like when the lesson said, with the Jewish custom with Passover, even now, people will not bother them or say, get over it.
Yeah.
You know, all of this. They kind of leave them alone and let them do what they do. But we got to get over it. We got to build a bridge and get over it.
You know, and seriously speaking and stuff too, untold number of slaves died during the Middle Passage,
Mhm.
you know, coming from Africa, you know,
Yes.
by way of Europe, to America, but, and I'm talking about, you know, we lost a lot of people. They don't ever want to tell you how many blacks actually died because nobody's gonna worry about keeping no records, you know, but, a hurt is a hurt.
Right.
And like I have to say, a lot of people, especially, give good example. Me and Brother Monad, and I know you and Ed experienced it too, you know, with the Masonic Club, like we did tonight. A lot of blacks, hey, they'll go sit down and wear the Shriners hat, but you can't talk them into, you know, becoming a Mason or a Hitler,
Right.
you know. But they'll put on the Shriner hats and they'll be active and stuff, but you got to talk to them about joining, you know, in our case, you know, something that was started by Congress. As an act of Congress started in 1950. But you can't get none of the blacks there want to do everything else but participate in stuff that's pertinent and, you know, per se for black folk.
Mhm.
And see, sometimes when you forget about, I don't know whether things getting better for us or things getting worse. Because at this point, you know, it seems like for every step forward we make, you know, something fall off the plate and we go back 2 steps, you know?
Right.
See, we went through the struggle with segregation, you know, affirmative action, you know, separate but equal and all this stuff. But now, and I told somebody one time, they said, well, why are we in the shape we're in? I said, because we never made the adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
I say, the whites at each step made the adjustment. So now, they to the point that they almost, if you let Donald Trump get in, they almost back to where it all started at.
Mm-hmm.
Segregated, you know? And we know it never was separate but equal. We know what kind of books we got in. Got to know too.
Mm-hmm.
We got the raggedest books that been wrote all in, the whole back cover missing off of and stuff. And that's the garbage that they brought us to have. But one thing about it didn't stop to learn. It didn't stop to learn. Long as the pages were still there, that means we could still read.
Right. And it was because we had teachers that was passionate about it, even though the book was falling apart, it didn't matter because they passed it on. And I like what the reference you made about your mom not talking about slavery. We, when I read that about they passing on from generation to generation, a light bulb went on.
Yeah.
And I said, I always ask myself, where did we fail at? Where did we start going wrong with our youth? We don't pass along stuff from generation to generation. And it's because we don't want to deal with it. We don't teach people how to cook no more because we don't want to cook. So we just we don't do Sunday dinner because we don't want to take the time to cook. We just make it look perfect.
Like my dad was sticker. My grandmother, grandfather. And look, wasn't no Sunday meal being cooked on Sunday. You cooked on Saturday night. And you warmed it up for Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my grandfather, I said, and stayed with my grandmother and grandfather. Well, look here, every Sunday meal was prepared on Saturday. You know, and you like to say, And the Bible tells us too as well.
Mhm.
Don't forsake or forget about the landmark.
Yeah.
You know, don't forget about what the bridges, like you said, don't forget about the bridge that brought you over.
Right.
Because see, it's an old analogy they'll say, he who knows nothing about the past is doing the repeat.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know why slavery occurred and you sit here, kick back, living good, like you say, for a long time, the millionaire athletes and millionaires, you know, black millionaires and stuff, they was considered to be worthless because they were doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Very few of them was doing something, you know. Wasn't a whole lot of Sidney Poitier, Harry Belafonte, who was, you know, even when they were trying to make a living in Hollywood, they were still social activists. You know, they were still out there at the front. You know, they couldn't get a job and stuff. They were still out there supporting Dr. King, you know, the NAACP, and you know, so sometimes you can't forget about the things that should be important. You should be ingrained in you. And one thing about the Jews, no matter where you go, you know when you're in a Jewish community. Hey, they say some significant cultural things and stuff. And say, as black folks, we got too hip, we got too slacks, and we got too light. See, everybody else identifies by the clothes they wear.
Yeah.
You understand? When you see a people, you know who you're dealing with by their attire. See, we done threw off the attire. Every country in Africa got a certain way of dressing. A certain color, a certain style, you know. We sit down there and think that here in this country, oh look, we invented style. They following us. They following you to make a dollar to steal what you come up with, you know. We have lived all our lives in this country with a set of people who couldn't invent nothing. Who stole everything, every idea they could to turn it for a dollar, make a profit on it. You know, and all the stuff black folks invented, still being used today and stuff, never got a penny for it. Because somebody white took it and exploited it and made the dollar off of it. You know, what if somebody black had you know, had the inclination to sit and hang, and, you know, because it was very hard for black folks to get patents. You understand? So in order for you to make any money in it, you gotta look. Let's even go back to even further stuff. In order for us to hold church service and stuff, had to be somebody white in the audience. You know, because they were so fearful about insurrection and revolts and black folks wanted to get out there to kill folks that they got to be saying what they talking about. You know, and right about now they ain't got to be nowhere because we got somebody picking up the phone every day telling them everything that's going on. White folks know what you're going to do before you know it. Yeah? Because somebody always going, well, let me tell you what Eddie doing today or what Eddie talking about doing this stuff. And sometimes, you know, we got to hold fast such things that's important. Just like discussion always come up here in church. We quasi-traditional / modern. You know, some people are, well, I like the modern. What is the modern way? Oh, I'm a New Testament believer. Ain't no such thing. The Bible is one complete book. So how can you holler about you only gonna follow what the New Testament says stuff? It's one complete book. The Bible is the Bible. Hey, look. More than man want to split the Bible and say the Old Testament, what they did. This is all one book. So if you're gonna read the Bible, you read the Bible. Not one section of the Bible. You know, sometimes we can hurt our own self by doing something. And the thing about, like this lesson pointed out, even with your side, no king. I thought it was funny too. And 4 days last night, I started reading about evil King Amun. You know, look, and look. Then you start reading deeper. Hey, to get rid of King Amun, they had to assassinate him, and they gonna get rid of that evil. Had to go and take him out of stuff. You know, so no king had ever celebrated the Passover. And then it's going all the way back to the prophet Samuel, you know? And then you start looking at and me and Ness was sitting there suddenly, let's together last night, and she said, baby, how many years we talking about? I said, baby, it originally started 800 years, they had kept it. I said, but at this time period, it started, you know, when Josiah came along and stuff, but 400 years, they hadn't celebrated. Nothing. You know? So, to start something, and then all of a sudden, for 400 years, nobody do it, you know? And I put myself a big question mark. I said, even in captivity and stuff, you know, normally the Jews did what they always practiced, you know, within limitations, you know, what they could do and stuff, you know. Then you look at, you know, Daniel, you know, the Hebrew boys and stuff, you know, and even they took the chance to still try to pray, you know. And then when you start to get there and stuff, you say for 400 years, nobody did this. Nobody actually prayed and stuff, you know. Then Josiah come along and stuff, and you just don't see 16-year-old kids come along doing this. He started his whole reign, you know, and all of a sudden, we gonna do this at 16 years of age. And you holler up and you say, well, was all of them? Because there was a whole lot of them. Jeroboam and all of them, there's a whole lot of evil kings right there, you know, together for a long time. They didn't do nothing but try to pad their pockets and did all manner of evil, you know. And the thing, you know, when you see a young, the book describes him as a God-fearing, God-loving, you know, leader. Somebody who had, you know, had fear and love of God in him, that he wanted to do something for his people. So, you know, to be 16 years of age and stuff, when he come in and say he want to, you know, come up with some reforms and stuff, you know, and I thought it kind of odd, you know. The first set of reforms happened the year 8th of his reign. The second set of reforms happened when his 12th year reign. The last part happened, and he had been ruling for 18 years. So you basically talking about a young man throughout most of his young life. He was the one who was doing those things that was going to bring the people back to, you know, their first love. Right. You know, because sometimes we forget about, you know, we went from being praying type of people to we want to go to church. Right. Some good things happened during COVID. A lot of things almost dropped completely off. Right about now, you got people who don't even want to get dressed. Well, I like Zoom better. You know, I don't have to get dressed to go nowhere, you know. And then the word tell us, say, what? Assemble yourself in the house of God. It didn't say nothing about stay in your house at your table, you know, with your little shirt on and stuff, a shirt and a tie, but you ain't got short pants and pajamas on, because it's just waist up. They can't fit your waist up. You know? Yeah, you know, and I mean, you know, sometimes, you know, we do stuff people ain't think about it. But one thing you have to understand is certain things are gonna have to be continue to be dear to you. Certain things you're gonna want to celebrate. Certain things you're gonna want to adhere to and stuff. Josiah, being like he was and stuff, he didn't do things haphazardly and stuff. He went from top to bottom, you know, even to the point explaining to the priests what their duty was and stuff, and how it was and stuff, you know. And somebody tell me how the ark was transported when they was wandering all them years.
It was the Levitical priests were the only ones that could be able to touch it. So it was it had two in the front and two in the back, with long rods that carried. So they really kind of carried on their shoulders from place to place. Couldn't touch it because as you know about you right, yeah. Uzziah. Because I make a comment, David tried to put some 22s on it and tried to roll with it.
Yeah.
And you know, it started falling. He touched it, but the Lord said nobody but, you know, the chosen ones to touch it.
If you touched it,
You he died. So, but that's how it was carried on the rods. And
See, and now, you know, just like I come and say, no longer, you won't carry the ark around with no poles on your shoulder, you know, because basically, big long pole and nothing like that. I said, put people on and stuff. The ark dangling in the middle, you had little rings in it, the poles went through, so you got the pole on your shoulder. So you carry, like, said no longer should have, you know, the ark, the covenant be carried. But they're going to be placed in the house that David's son Solomon built, you know, because this was the place where God was supposed to reside in Jerusalem. So this is where the ark should be. You know, so the young man had a lot of, he had a whole lot of, you know, I don't know where all this knowledge came from. They kept making the difference between when he had his Passover celebration when Hezekiah had his, you know. And you start looking at the difference in what was done and stuff, and how you start thinking about 142,000 plus animals, you know, was sacrificed, you know. And they say during the time they thought what Hezekiah did was so great and stuff, but you know, you're talking about, give or take, Eddie, almost 2-to-1, you know, close to 3-to-1, the number of animals that were killed. But it was one difference, in that this particular celebration, being as immense as it was, it also had preparation to feed the people. A lot of people to try to feed. This is why they had to have so many animals. You know, you killed so many. You know, the burnt offerings. You know, and I thought kind of, you know, it broke down explicitly. The burnt offerings. They burned a whole bull. You know how many bulls? They were a whole big old bull. They said that for the burnt offering, but you couldn't eat that. No. It was only certain food prepared, you know, now the fellowship offering. You know, different kind of meat, different preparation, you know. That's what fed the people, you know. And so see a whole lot. It wasn't just where somebody would kill animals and stuff, you know, and then you start burning them, and then you just say, oh, that bull, like, you know, cooked pretty good at it, so drag him out of the coals, you know, and let's get ready, you know, carve him up. No, you know. They basically burnt the bulls up whole and stuff. So sometimes, you know, when you look at it, like I say, between Hezekiah Passover and Josiah Passover, the ambiguity about who was it that prepared the lamb, you know, because like the pastor said, most of those duties was given to the Levites. And then I started laughing at my wife and stuff. I said, hey, baby, she said, what? I said, Levi, you know, one serving the temple. Levi people, you know, religiously in charge of teaching the people in Israel. I said, but guess what? Every Levi wasn't a preacher. They wasn't a priest, okay? Yeah? But these group of people who were detailed to do certain things and stuff, you know, some Levites inside and around the temple area, somebody had to make sure that everything was clean outside and handled a certain way, just like the ones who was inside. So all those Levites who wasn't in the priesthood, they was the one who's making sure everything that needed to be done to support the priest was being done. Because we found out a long time, remember, what did the Levites get their substance from? The people. Which means they only did work that was concernable to the temple, you know, and supporting the priest. Which means they had time for no farming, you know, no playing around in the dirt to grow nothing and stuff. That was not their duty, you know. So that's just why every Levite wasn't a priest, because they had other duties that had to be done. So they were more supervisors than anything else and stuff. Sometimes, like I say, we look at the way the people did it, we think that, you know, it's these things. It's not easy when you start talking about it. You know, look at what Jesus did, you know, with the 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread, you know, and we talked about how he fed, you know, they fed 5,000 one time and 7,000. But nowhere in that account did they say nothing about the women and the children. This is just men. they was talking about. So now when you start talking about feeding Bibles of people and stuff, on the count, the only people being counted was the males. Never counted women in church, but there was always women in church. So hey, look, when you start doing your numbers and stuff, when you start talking about you fed 5,000, and most likely during that sermon about Jesus probably fed almost close to 10,000 people. Well, except for these two sisters who petitioned, in the Bible and stuff, because their dad didn't have no sons. Most of the heirs to the property was males. Started with the eldest son.
You got to think about during that time, women was considered property, and children wasn't really feared that much either. That's why when you look at a lot of the lost books of the Bible.
Yeah.
Mary Magdalene has a book that it just wasn't considered. Women be quiet in the church. Women don't say nothing in the church because they weren't held to a high esteem during that time. In some countries now, women are still that way. So I tell a lot of you hear me say it even in my preaching. I try to preach in the context or teach in the context of what was happening then. Because when you look at Daniel, when you look at Daniel or look at David, let me just use David. When you look at him in the context, David was still young, but he was a young man at 16. Josiah, a young man at 16. That was considered a man during that time. We consider a 16-year-old still a boy.
Young boy.
During this time. When you look at Mary Magdalene and what she did, we look at ladies now. If she's doing the same thing Mary Magdalene is doing, she can't be saved. She can't be changed. So a lot of the times it's in the context of what it is. Daniel and Lions Den. Let's look at Joshua. Joseph, with the dreams he had. A lot of times we talk about Joseph, and we automatically relate to Martin Luther King and that dream. But in the context of that, it wasn't that Joseph. The dream Joseph had was him saying that the Lord was revealing to him what he was about to do. The dream that Martin Luther King had was a dream of hope, right? Joseph's dream was a dream of reality. So we'll take it. So you got to look at it in that context. So a lot of the times, and if you read that about the 5,000, it mentions women and men, women and children in there, but I don't. They weren't included in the count. Even the 4,000 that he said. That's why it's so important when you realize that Jesus, it wasn't by coincidence that the first resurrection service, resurrection message was preached by a woman. It wasn't coincidence because women weren't revered. So if he's putting that in the hands of a woman, he's showing that everybody is equal, not just men, but everybody. I hope that kind of.
They talking. I was thinking about even when women got the right to vote. This is way back then. They were recognized right up into this period, and even now with a woman coming up being the president, it's still that.
Right. It's still that hate. So we have to. But going back to what we said earlier, because we know what women face, just in general. But we know what our black women face. Why, as men, we don't stand up for our women folk? Why do we don't stand up for them? I heard a preacher say one time, he was a Baptist preacher, he went in for an interview. And they asked him, how do they feel about women? in the pulpit, a women preaching.
And that's still a problem.
And his comment was that if you look at the book of Acts, and I can't remember all he said, but he said, we allow women to sing, we allow women to do a lot of the stuff and all that. And it said, truth be told, most times there are more women in the church than men. So he said, if the women call me and say they started their own church, I'm going with the women. So we have to protect our women. And there's no, not getting upset, there's no doubt in my mind. When God created man and woman, he created man to be the head of the household. He created man to be the provider. He created man to lead. But as we see with Moses, Moses didn't really tell Eve about the tree of life. You know that's forbidden. He just told her not to eat from it, but he didn't tell her why. And now we're at the point to where you remember God said, "I'll let the rocks cry out," but he ain't got to because he got the women. So the women are stepping up because we as men refuse to. And I'm not talking, us here, yeah. But we got a lot of men that don't even get out and pump gas for a woman. They sit in the car and let her, you got women that's working 3 and 4 jobs. They're trying to support a man that just want to sit and play a game all day. So so it can change, but the Lord said, I got to use somebody. And when all the men ran off, when I was at the tomb, and when I got up that Sunday morning, all the men were gone. So who was there?
Ladies came
The
early.
ladies came early. So I'm still going to allow, if you don't want to support them, I'm going to support them. So, but we got to, as men, we got to start doing more to support the community.
Well, black men gonna have to, like you say, you have to gird up your line, your clothes and stuff on. You have to stand in. True, you had no power during slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Where you would have been killed to stand up for a black woman, to defend her, you would have died.
Mm-hmm.
But some things are worth dying for.
Mm-hmm.
Today, a lot of people, no longer accept it. Just 2 days ago, my oldest daughter was talking to my soon-to-be 14-year-old granddaughter, and going to this little private school, it got a little religious base to it, in Gainesville, because the middle school is in Gainesville, off the chain, And so the white boy came in the classroom, came up to us, on another, ain't that many black students going, even though the person over, the director, Dr. So-and-so is black. The young white boy came up to her and another friend and said, can I use the end card with y'all today? But my granddaughter wasn't raised and stuff like that, because she most of us were sheltered, We didn't learn that stuff about how racist Fort St. Joe was and stuff until we got of age and started hanging out in the streets around our peers, but you never heard it. See, I never heard the word cracker, nigger, redneck. I heard none of that in my house, so nor in my grandparents' house. All that stuff, I became part of it, once I got old enough to start hanging out. But my daughter had to explain to her, she said, well, Mama, I really didn't know how to rap to that. That one time, by the time Monique got to talk, baby, don't you never let nobody try you with some old foolishness like that, So you stand and say, back. I'm surprised you didn't try to take his head out. Well, the other little girl that was with her went and talked to the person in charge. Because the little white boy was boasting about how it was a year before, last year, the young black boys allowed him to call him a nigga, And so So he figured, well, he gave me a pass. I don't know why y'all won't. Needless to say, the boy got suspended about 3 or 4 days from school. So, and I told her, I said, you have to stand up for yourself. And her mother started, you got to stand up for yourself. Don't let nobody talk, any kind of way. See, I said, even with my youngest daughter, brought a couple young men home. Guys come walking, they come strolling up the pot, the car coming to the yard. I was standing on the porch. And I looked at what was coming to my yard with his pants down to his knees and stuff, and he like that. And my daughter reached over and whispered in his ear, and he tried to pull his pants up, right? So by the time he got halfway across the yard to the front steps, I said, young man, you don't own a belt? He said, no, sir. I said, good. I said, come on in. I got 2 or 3. I'm going to give you one. I said, and I looked at her. I said, I dare you. What's wrong, Daddy? This is how you going to allow somebody, your brother, walk around with you? I say, I tell you what, can't get it right, don't bring it back. Not in my house. Because I ain't gonna watch nobody walking around with their pants hanging all down. Not in my house. Now, if that's what you want to do, that's on you. But sometimes we have to reinforce. You don't have to teach hate, but you have to. If you don't stand up for yourself, that's one thing my grandmother told me. She said, "Baby, ain't nobody stand up better than you for yourself. Ain't but one person more equipped to stand up for you better than you can." And she said, and that's God. Said, but you have to stand up for what's right and stuff. And another thing too that people don't understand and stuff too, being young is no excuse for not having knowledge and being able to do something. Mm-hmm. In fact, the younger you are and the better you are equipped, the longer you got to work on something to get it right. Because see, being 50, 60 years old when you do something, look at Moses. Moses lived a long time, did a lot of things, but guess what? He did a whole lot of other things, completely the opposite of what he became, But Moses was a grown man. Yeah. During the time when he was chopping off the Egyptian ear and stuff, Moses already, but to a grown man. So, you're talking about somebody starting to do something to make a difference when they're young and stuff, and that's it. David passed on something. He had the love of God, man after God's own heart, but had too much blood on his hand. He wanted to build a temple. God said, no, but your son, build a temple. But David was the one who sit there and stocked all the stuff that went into the temple, So, sometimes, you may want a thing to happen. And it may not happen in your generation or your time period and stuff, but that don't mean it won't happen, because I still tell people, we may be like 2 ticks on God's clock. We may not be 2 ticks at it. Mm-hmm. But, because of the time back with God, say, God ain't got to get it on her. Mm-hmm. Who in her? We are, because our time is one that said it. Right. That it's been, and being necessary that last night and stuff, say, woo, she's the baby. All the old saints in St. Joe, just about gone now. And then the reality of the stuff in to say, we the old people, where you might have been 30, 40, 50 years old, 30, 40 years ago, guess what? Now you 70, getting 80. We the old folks, And so, if we don't stop the drain, then who? Because I'm telling you, my dad looked at my son, the one, Frankie Jr., and he was about 17, 18 years old. He was in the church down in St. Pete, AME church. Was sitting in there, boy, in their reunion and stuff. My dad looked at himself and said, boy, you done stayed with me in my house all your early life and stuff, and you can't lie to him. And Frank Judah looked at me to my dad, what you talking about? And I looked at him, I said, Lord, have mercy, boy, Big Al done called, done pull your little car. He said, he done raised you, you know what the church, you know, all your life, but you don't know how to lie to him. So I started pointing at it. I say, verse 1, say, skip down to the middle section, do 1, and then skip down to the chorus and sing. Oh, that's what I do that. You know, so sometimes, you know, doing things and being prepared to do things is entirely different. You know, and sometimes people I want to skip step 1, I'm going to 2. You know, but see, step 1 might mean you may have to do the preparation, getting ready to do it, you know, and step 2 may actually put you to the point where you finna physically do it and put your hands on it, you know, because if you don't read the instruction, when it comes to assembly stuff, had 2 brothers almost going to kill each other, helping me put together one of the gym sets, you know, for kids with the sliding board. They got arguing so much. One was a carpenter at Faith Mill, the other one was a millwright. And boy, they all used boats and put where they shouldn't have went because they were arguing. Oh, I need the plan. No, I say, hold up, I want both y'all to help me, but let's do the standing right way. I said, what's that? I say, let's start on a section at a time so all this will work, you know. And so sometimes, you know, even the best of people, you know, stuff don't always work like it should and stuff. But when you dedicated to something and you got everything old don't mean it ain't no good. You know, it's a reason for everything under the sun. You know, Solomon said there are no new things under the sun. Everything you doing, somebody else done already did it before. You know, but if you follow through, you know, and Josiah, he was keeping the Passover ritual. He became a model for what ritual faithfulness was all about. Do A, do B, do C. D gonna naturally follow because you by the steps. You know, basic stuff. I get in your car, you get in my car. As a veteran driver, the first thing you're going to do, because you've been taught to do, youngsters don't know nothing like that. Either one or two, you're going to adjust the seat first, or you're going to adjust the mirror. And you got to do that. I get in my wife's car all the time with all the Chardonnays and stuff. She said, how you got in the car when you push the seat back outside the side, roll in, then I let the seat back. But most of the time, I'm hitting the button and let the seat back before I get in, because I said, your leg this long to mine, that long. So, you know, certain things that you have to do and stuff, you know, but, and practicing, you know, very long time ago. If you do and take the good things from other people, the good things from other cultures, you know, not the bad. If you take all the good things and apply to what it is you consider to be good, then everything that's going to proceed from you is going to be something good. But see, if you start taking the bad thing, materialism, trying to live like all the people all around, and doing adultery, you know, fornication, you know, out with you, you know, had all kind of problems. But as long as they did the things that God directed them to do, and passed down to Moses and all other, you know, leaders and stuff, they was in line. The first time they stepped left or right, that got them out of line because he was not following the pattern that had been set. And sometimes as a people and stuff, we go astray because who are we following? You know, who can we point to say, this is who we need to be patterning our behavior in our life? You know, women got plenty of examples. We got very few now because the ones that we had was doing it and passed out the sea. And now you got nobody that make a difference. Put 10 down for me. Rub on it. Back in your hand.
10 for me and 10 for Sister Mother, so 20 all the way.
You ready for a few?
Oh, that's what you paid for it, not got to be down there.
Okay,
Monday.
okay. Yeah, where were they at?
Whole stack of it.
I-
What's Nadine gonna do? I sent Cole, Sister Cole, the whole stack to get to you.
Oh,
When y'all let the program 3 o'clock.
she did.
She getting old. She old 72. Yeah, I gave it.
Make sure to put that in the right.
But I don't reach anymore. Have to write it all down.
Okay.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good stuff. New Beth AMB Church, Port St. Joe, Florida, class report date Sunday, 22nd September 2024. Class number 1, teacher present, attendance, visitors none, student joined class 8 none. Total student present 2, total present 5, total contribution $40. Mission Mary Written, Sanders presiding prelate, Reverend Tansy Moss, second presiding elder, Reverend Christopher Jordan, pastor, Brother Clarence Manette, superintendent, Brother Frank Finell, senior assistant superintendent, Bible verse. Josiah kept the Passover to the Lord in Jerusalem. They slaughtered the Passover lamb on the 14th day of the first month. 2 Chronicles 30 chapter, first verse.
Thank you. Now it's time for our review. Review today.
I can do it. I do a review of all, but I do a review of my total remarks out there.
All right.
Good evening, good morning. Good morning to our Bible Discovery Hour. I was joking with Sister Linda. I'm gonna call it our Sunday Discovery. It's a Bible Discovery Hour. Our Sunday Discovery Hour. Great lesson. Couple things. And I had a kind of review that I kind of looked at, but Brother Finell made some good points. You know, he talked about prayer, how we used to pray, and I got in a conversation, and I would always say it. There's no doubt in my mind that my great grandmother that passed away in 97, and the people that came up during that time prayed for a black president. They prayed to see a president that looked like them. It didn't come to pass when she was alive, but they prayed for it, and in God's time, He did. And then we stopped praying. We stopped praying. We prayed, but we prayed for the Lord to protect that President Obama. Then we went around and said, "My president is black." Right? We stopped praying for guidance for the president. Because I always remind people that it was our president, President Obama, that signed into law the same-sex marriage. And that is destroying some of the churches now, right? We stopped praying. And because we stopped praying, God sent us a Trump. And He sent us a Trump, and guess what we did? We got back on our knees and started praying again. But also what the Lord did when Obama was president and the other side didn't like him, was talking about it, we couldn't understand why. Why y'all don't like him? But then they sent us a Trump and we started talking about it, and the other side started liking him. We couldn't understand why. It's because we're not praying the way we used to pray. We're not praying that the Lord would change the heart of who's ever in charge. Praying that the Lord will intercede on our behalf in dealing with him, because He did say He was going to send kings that wasn't after His own heart. Right? He did say there were going to be kings and judges that wasn't going to act right and do right. But we still got to do right, so we got to start back praying. We got to be vigilant in prayer. One thing Josiah did, he told the people to consecrate themselves. He told them to consecrate themselves before we even get to the Passover. And you know, and I asked myself, how can we consecrate ourselves today? Because that's the Old Testament. I like what you said. Some people don't like Old Testament stuff because it don't apply, but Jesus always went back to the Old Testament. Jesus even said, I didn't come to condemn the law, I came to fulfill the law. So how can we consecrate ourselves for service now? How can we consecrate ourselves today? It's about prayer. We should consecrate ourselves every morning with prayer. We should consecrate ourselves every day with just reading something of God's word. But not only that, trying to live a life that is pleasing to Him. Now, granted, some days, you know, some people gonna pull us out of character. There's gonna be some days where we woke up with our mind stayed on Jesus, and somewhere around noon, Jesus ain't nowhere in it because somebody is acting a fool, and we got to show them you ain't as foolish as I am. You know. But that's how we consecrate ourselves. We got to pray. One thing me and Sister Linda do every morning before we do anything else. First thing we do when we get out of bed. If one of us getting out of bed and one of us is still in the bed, we pray together. Ain't no long prayer. She prays one day, I pray the other day. Ain't nothing long about it, but it's prayer. The other thing I do, and she'll tell you, I listen to the Bible every morning. I got an app that reads the Bible to me, and my goal is every year to read through the whole Bible. Every year I start. What I'm doing this year is I'm doing it chronologically. So it's skipping over, but it's doing it in the way the events happen. Prayerfully, I'll be through. Actually, probably the next couple of months. I think about 38 more days. But I just let it read to me. So if I'm driving, sometimes I turn it on and I listen to it. When I get up in the mornings, I listen to it. And prayerfully, if I do it every year, some maybe will stick. Some maybe will stick that you know, like that good movie. You already know the parts of it when it comes up. I'm hoping I get to that point. It may be 5-10 years down the line, but I'm able to, when it comes up, I'm able to repeat everything that is said. So you ain't got to sit there and read it, God, and then people to read it too. So that's how we consecrate ourselves. But also, we got to, how do we know where we're going? Unless we know where we've been, right? I think one of our problems is we don't know where we're going. Because we don't actually know where we've been. And because we don't know where we've been, we don't know where we're at right now. If you, before the age of GPS, we used to have, I remember that map that you used to, the atlas. You had, well, I said, I ain't that old. Let me rephrase that. I heard. You had to get the atlas map. But guess what? If you didn't know where you were, and you didn't know where you came from, how you know how to get to where you need to go? Even if you don't know where you're at, if you know where you started at, you can go back on the atlas and point out where you started at and kind of trace, okay, I think I'm here right now. But if you don't know them first two, how do you know where you're going? I think one of the problems is in our communities, we hadn't told the people where we came, our youth where we came from, and they don't know where they're at now. So neither one of us know where we're going. So we got to start going back and telling people why, telling the expect. I'm just going to stick with the LD Church right now. A lot of people, because Brother Chanel brought this up, some people say they're modern. Some people say they're traditional. So the modern people don't want to do the call to worship. They want to do some like what the Baptists, and they want to have devotional service, right? But they don't realize our call to worship is our devotional service. When they're singing the song, when you get up and do that call to worship, I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord, our feet shall stand within thy gates, O Jerusalem. That is a worship. That is praise right there, because there are some people that he ain't called to come into the house of the Lord. They're waiting to be rolled in on that Saturday. Right. So I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord. And the other part, my feet are standing within the gate of Jerusalem. Even if you're rolling in a wheelchair, your feet can still touch the ground. But if they're rolling you in a casket, your feet would never touch the ground. So we got to teach them why we do the call to worship. We got to teach them why we do the Decalogue. The Decalogue, all it is just telling you the 10 Commandments. And the reason why we do the summary, because that is the greatest 2 commandments. So we got to teach them that and show them we can have a modern service, a modern praise with a traditional atmosphere. But we don't teach them that no more. And I think because we don't know. And lastly, what I want to get at, it was something else, brother. Yes, and I can't remember what it is. So my lastly just went out the window. But the Passover itself, Josiah, it took him 4 stages, I think it was. It tells us to get this done. We got to realize stuff ain't gonna be done overnight. Some things take time, but you got to do it in steps. You got to do it in a way that's pleasing to God. I think sometimes God will give us a vision, and we just get the vision and go ahead and run with it. And the Lord said, I ain't even gave you the plan yet. How you gonna create vision? I made this comment. It's just like when you first start driving, get your license, and mom and daddy tell you, I need you to go to the store for me. You done ran and got the keys and ran to and hung up the car going to the store. You had went to the store, and mom and dad ain't told you what you were going to do.
And you got the days of sale on
You had to all the way back around, right? You didn't even know what you was going for. So he did it in steps because they had to consecrate themselves first. But after the consecration, he had to reteach them what the Passover was. But not only did he have to reteach them what the Passover was, he had to teach them and reassure them on what to eat in the Passover. Because that was about 400 years. So the people that was at the Samuel's Passover ain't at this Passover. The people that cooked the sweet potato pie back then ain't the ones that's in now. You know, mom and them that had the collard greens that taste so good back then, they ain't got them. So he had to reteach them. He had to go back and find the recipes and show the people how to do it.
I mean, Jay,
Yeah.
one thing I bring you into about, especially about when they found the book,
Mm-hmm.
when the priest found the
Yeah.
book, Deuteronomy, the old book of Moses, who actually it pointed out, and that changed Josiah's whole way of thinking and doing things and stuff, you know, and he went back to follow what had been there before, you know. So that was like, it was like the album for him and stuff. When they found the book, it said, not only did it shock him, but it said immediately, once he found the book, he started to institute all these reforms and changes and stuff, you know. And I think what got me to this stuff as well, Pastor, was when they said he got rid of all of, he started going out got rid of all the soothsayers and the witches and all of it. He got rid of all that stuff, you know. And sometimes we need to, sometimes you just said, you know, everybody talk about revival. Sometimes you need revival.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
You need to go back and have something that you want to.
Right. And I'm glad you mentioned revival because that's something that we start having some meetings and put on the calendar. I would love to have at least 3 to 4 revivals a year. At least you know probably won't be able to do it this year. But a revival during Thanksgiving, a harvest day, a harvest week revival. Have one during Holy Week. Then you have one at least 3 at the end of the year. So you have 3 in there because the harvest week revival is trying to reap the benefits of what we've sown. The Holy Week revival, that's just simple because it's Holy Week. Then you have one a little bit after that, so we'll work through that. But sometimes you got to clean house.
Yeah, well, sometimes too, you find out too and stuff. We used to have our own Passion Week in the ministry alliance to go, and they started going to each different church. So that's another one of the things we're going to deal with.
We'll work it out. Yeah. But the thing is, watch this. During COVID, and that was it. COVID has taught us how to worship in a new age society. We got to realize some people just, you know what's funny? When we close the church, why y'all closing the church? We want to come back to church and we open the door. Why y'all open the doors back up? We just want to do something. You ain't going to please everybody. But it taught us a new new way of worship. He taught us a new way of praise. And we just got to take that and use it for the upbuilding of God's kingdom, no matter what it is and how it is. But I like what you said, and I'm going to close with this. Sometimes you just got to clean house. If you had COVID during that time, and even now, first thing you did was, after you got over COVID, you changed your toothbrush, you changed all of that. You took your sheets, if you didn't wash them, you just throw them out and brought in new stuff. Same thing, and you hear me say this, same thing, and this is one of my philosophies. You can't grow the church until you clean the church. You can't bring in new people in a sick house. Because if you bring new people into a sick house, what's going to happen? They're going to get sick. So you got to clean it from the inside out. So sometimes you got to make tough choices. And sometimes you got to just tell people. Bishop Zanders said this to some of the pastors. Sometimes you call to preach, but maybe it's not an AME church.
He shows it.
Did he say?
He shows it.
So you call to serve, but maybe it ain't in this church. And we got, and you know that sometimes you got to have that tough conversation, because you got to realize, and I tell people as a pastor, as an AME pastor, it's not my church, it's them folk church. And I heard one bishop tell us a long time ago that you got to figure out which way the church is running. And I think it was Elder Davis said he heard this from one of the bishops. He said, you got to figure out which way the church is running, and you just got to outrun the church and get in front of it. I like you. Right, but we know moving forward, there are going to be some things that we have to do. There's going to be some tough choices that not only as the pastor, but as leaders of the church, we're going to have to make. And they're not going to be popular decisions and choices at times, but we're going to do it in a way that's pleasing to the Lord. And see me and you ask me about some stuff, ask me about maybe doing some stuff, and the first thing I'm going to tell you, let's pray about it. Because it's not that I'm ignoring it, but I need to make sure that the person that made the house is okay with how I'm running the house. Because at the end of the day, if it's not pleasing to him, it's going to fall to the ground anyway. So that's what Josiah did. He made sure each step was pleasing to God, because he had to move in people that wouldn't move. He had to guide people that didn't want to be guided. He had to teach people that was used and set in their own ways. And you know how we are. Some of us are just set in our own ways. And I'm going to leave with this. You know, they always say you can't teach a dog new tricks. I always say that dog. Because if you follow Christ, you should learn some each day. It's like in the hands of my superintendent.
Yes, sir.
Church schools open at 9:30.